Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Ruxpin.
We are here to do a review of the full season that just dropped on Netflix about 2 weeks ago at this point for the chilling adventures of Sabrina. We didn't really have time to do the first episode because I was in Mexico when it dropped, and by the time we got a chance to actually record the review, we've watched it all. So here we are with the full season review. We'll try and keep it spoiler-free. Because it's still a new enough season that we don't want to ruin it for everyone. But we're going to do the review like usual, our overall thoughts, our thoughts on the story, the acting, the effects, music, everything in good turn. So first, Marcia, why don't you start off? Well, you know what, let me start off on this one. Because when I texted you about it, your answer interested me, but I don't know that it would necessarily be the most positive thing. I'm curious, but I'm going to start off by saying I really, really enjoyed the series. I was happy with the acting. It did not fall into the typical pitfalls that, you know, when we reviewed the first 2 episodes of Light as a Feather, we said the same thing about that. Unfortunately, that one, I think, did veer towards those things. Nice. But this one didn't. The characters remained interesting and not annoying, and there were even some mysteries about some of the characters that I cared about as well. And the story overall was very interesting. So we'll get into it all more in depth, but, you know, again, overall, I really, really enjoyed it, actually. What about you?
I thought it started off pretty strong. I think the story itself kind of lost me in a few episodes just because it felt really repetitive. Like, just her character, like they try to grow her character, but to me, like, she doesn't actually grow. She's pretty, like, I'm just gonna do what I want, and, you know, this is how it's gonna be, and which is fine. However, it just seems like it became the same formula for every single episode, which just got boring to me after a while, and I kind of saw that. The twist, I was like, really irritated me. I won't say what it is because it would be spoily, but it was really irritating, like, what happened in the end, because we went through so much, and then...
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I don't think it was much of a, like, oh, twist, more like, what? So, that's kind of how I landed on that.
Okay, fair enough. I know what you're referring to now just based on what you're saying, and I get what you're saying, but I think it was kind of, you know, to put it as plainly as the show would, a necessary evil, you know? And it does sort of open the storytelling up to new avenues in the next season. So I think it was actually not... I think if they had kept it the same, I think next season would have felt even more repetitive in the ways that you're thinking this one was.
Probably, yeah.
So the fact that they're going to perhaps move locations, you know, make it a different sort of thing, and yet still tie into the family aspect, I think that could actually help the show in a lot of ways, and I would think you might as well. While the twist itself to get there might feel like it kind of betrayed its own lore a little bit, I think is what you're driving at. I think it was a storytelling choice and necessity. So I'm a little more forgiving of it without ruining what's happening, guys. But let's jump into the story then. So obviously it shows in the trailer that Sabrina is, you know, the next in a line of witches in this not Salem, but still, you know, east side of the country town that has had covens all through history. They just, when the whole Salem trials were going on, they all went underground and decided to not let anyone know that they actually existed there. So that's how they avoided all of the issues that Salem had. But she's the next in the line of these witches, and on the 16th birthday, she's supposed to sign the Book of the Beast, which is, you know, the book for the Church of Satan or whatever. This, her family, you know, the witches all worship the Dark Lord, you know, all worship Satan, and she lives with her Aunt Zelda and her Aunt Hilda because her parents have died, much like Harry Potter. But, you know, Sabrina's been around way longer than Harry Potter, so, you know, it's... they actually just relaunched her comic, too. But anyway, so she lives with her aunts and her cousin, from across the pond, and he's a warlock. They're witches that very much follow the Dark Lord. They've signed the book. They've all signed the book. And Aunt Zelda is sort of the strict schoolmarm of the family. And she is very much pushing Sabrina towards signing the book. Aunt Hilda is sort of pushing her towards making her own choice. And her cousin is just sort of along for the ride watching what's going on. And that dynamic is sort of the crux of what happens for the first 2 episodes. And then the next, 8 episodes are what happens after she makes her decision. And I thought, I think that's as deep as her friends from school come into play. She's got a boyfriend and 2 close friends that are all human at school. And she doesn't want to have to leave them behind, because if she does sign the book, she has to go to this, essentially Hogwarts for evil, satanic Hogwarts, and learn her craft and all that stuff. And so, at one point she has to, go to said school and sort of get an idea of what it's like and things like that. And one of the guys that's sort of the, I forgot what they called him, the high priest of the Satanic Temple, he comes into play and plays a big role. And I actually really thought that he was a good actor. So I don't know. I was engaged the whole time, with not only leading up to her decision, but even afterwards. I see what you're saying, the repetitiveness of her making her own decision every single time and suffering the consequences. Yeah, but that is how her character grows episode by episode, is because she does what she wants, and then it inevitably doesn't really turn out the way she wants.
I just don't think she actually grows from it, because she doesn't learn from her lesson. She just keeps digging herself in a bigger and bigger hole, which, it has its ups and downsides. I just felt like other characters were growing where she wasn't, which was interesting, since she is the main character. She's almost kind of like an anti-hero in
a little
a way.
bit. Yeah, a
and,
little bit.
Because she just doesn't care. She just keeps going. It kind of reminds me of the main character from The Orange is the New Black. Like, you start off really liking her, but then after a while you're like, she's really just an awful person who doesn't really think of anybody else but herself, but pretends to be thinking of other people. So, I don't know. It was interesting. I think everybody did a good job when it comes to acting. If you want to talk about acting, I thought there wasn't anybody that bothered me or took me out of the show at all.
Did you like all of her friends, or did any of them get annoying to you?
No, I liked all the friends.
I did too.
I thought the casting for this show was spot on. I
loved her cousin too. I thought he was tremendous.
Yeah. I think he might have been my favorite out of everybody.
He was so fun to watch.
He was fun to watch. He had an interesting character, and you can see where his path can really take the show into interesting places. So I liked it.
Yeah. Did you like Hilda and Zelda?
I liked Zelda more than Hilda.
Really? Okay. Why is that?
Well, Zelda's the mean one, right? Yeah. Maybe that's why. But I thought there's a lot of levels for her. Like, she's an onion,
True.
She's like, comes off as like, no, this is what we need to do. And then you find out, like, she's just covering up a lot of family stuff. And she's just trying to keep the house together and keep everybody from being, like, just, banded from the coven, and which is, one of the things that they, like, say, like, the coven is what keeps you alive if you're a witch. So it's very interesting dynamic. And I feel like they kind of downplay Hilda a lot, and they made her kind of, like, made her, like, this kind of, like, airhead, kind of, like, oh, la, la, but she does come through in some
she's fiercely loyal too. Like,
she is fiercely loyal.
I like that. I liked both of those characters. I liked the high priest too. I thought he did a really good job. He ended up having layers too. But yeah, I thought that they did a lot of. Part of why I like the fact that Sabrina would make her own choice and have to reap the consequences, because it's such a dark, witchcrafty show. They could do things that I was genuinely caught off guard by, especially one episode in particular. When it happened, I was like, Jesus, what the hell just happened?
Right.
Did that really just happen? Like, whoa. And I'm skirting the spoiler here, but, the way it played out through the episode, I was like, oh, but still, it's like, it is like a really cool female-driven supernatural to me. Like I kind of dig on that, and everyone's got a part to play. Like even her friends and stuff. The one that has her own family sort of secrets,
they all have family secrets that they're playing a part to the whole storyline, which is very interesting.
That's true. And all their families do tie together. All the way back.
Right, and they all have different roles and that will affect the future story, which I find very fascinating.
So are you going to continue to the second season?
Yeah, I'll keep watching it for sure. I'm hoping, just like a lot of first seasons, it's not always all together yet. So as you go forward, it should get better. Theoretically, and there are some that don't.
What did you think of the effects that we got?
I thought they did a really good job.
I did too.
I think Netflix put the right amount of money in this show. Nothing was overdone and nothing was underdone. Everything was beautifully shot. The effects were very effective.
True. They didn't look like really cheesy and stuff like that.
Right, nothing pulled me out. Nothing pulled me out. I think the biggest thing that pulled me out was the story, just because I was like, okay, you're leading us in a certain direction, and you're setting all these rules, and then I feel like they wrote themselves into a corner and then had to fix it. And that's how it felt like to me. And plus, again, her character made me feel like those type of people I don't like. So
I also liked the representation, which was an effect in and of itself, of the Dark Lord that we got.
Yeah.
And I actually really liked that when we found out that her boyfriend had sort of a run-in as a kid. Like, I really liked those turns and stuff. I was really appreciative of how the story was told, honestly. And then how you can do fun things, like she tells him, early in the series,
the takesy backsy.
I kind of dig it.
That annoyed me. I was like, really? You're gonna just I take it back?
But to have that happen so early in the season, it was was gonna rear its head again.
Yeah. And then he never really forgot.
Well, you kind of. But anyway, it's. I liked little things like that. I really appreciated that.
They definitely are taking chances and really trying to explore the world and to have fun with it, which is, I can appreciate that.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, I think that's a good enough place to. We want to keep this kind of broad. We can do like a separate spoiler review later on if you guys like this enough and you want a separate spoiler where we talk about all the stuff in depth. We could do that. Maybe we'll do a podcast about it, Marcia. But yeah, I think that's as good enough an overall review as we can give. The characters are interesting, the acting is all really good, the effects are all really good, and the story is a really well told, concise 10-episode story, in my opinion. All right. So why don't we call it there? Why don't you guys let us know in the comments down below if you have seen it. What did you think? If you haven't seen it, are you likely to watch it now or not? I'd be curious to find out your opinions. While you're down there, click the link in the description box for our Patreon, and you can tell us some things you want us to do, like reviews or things like that. So thanks very much for watching. I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Ruxpin.
And remember, stay scared.